So when you wander into, as you describe, these coffee places, and what used to be approached in secluded, specialized, sometime mystery school type esoteric circles, is now going mainstream, and you describe, you have circles and circles of millennial where that is the conversation, and they choose to, at least for moments, to unplug from the social network and become the embodied network in person to be in this discovery. What are the wildest hopes that these experiences release and activate in you?
Well, one thing that just comes up for me is one of the emerging probabilities I have is that there's going to be these geocentric epicenters of doing the healing work. I call them coherence centers or healing nodes. And so it's actually where the center of gravity, the excuse that we're gathering is doing this healing and development work. So transformational cafes, right? Actually saying, okay, we're all coming into these coffee shops to have a coffee and have these conversations. What happens if we make that explicit? And the staff working here and the people here know that this is a container of unconditional love and it's a safe space, and you can actually come and all of you is welcome. And there are people on site who have facilitation capacities for people who need to be met in a moment of a deep healing process. And so healing hostels, transformational cafes, eco villages, retreat centers, places where people can go physically and be in community that is organized specifically around what we're talking about. And what would a world look like where the excuse for basically any reason that we're gathering in what's emerging is to do this healing and developmental and evolutionary work. And so what happens to how we organize ourselves around food or energy or technology or community when that starts to be, when we become aware that that's the reason that we're getting together. And to me, it's the wildest dream, right, is that we live in heaven on earth, right? We live in a work optional society. We heal our planet. We create technologies that kind of do any manual labor for us, and we spend our time enjoying ourselves and each other and sharing our gifts. And if you look at the economies that are emerging, right, there's a whole mostly untalked about emerging economy of people who have healing capacities getting together and just doing it and just exchanging healing gifts with each other in all different contexts. But to me, that seems like what might be possible for the future of humanity is we get together and celebrate each other, celebrate life, and really live a experience where we feel that a deep peace and a deep love and a deep trust in that which is beyond any understanding by the linguistic mind, and get to be fully present for every moment.
The two awarenesses that surfacing for me as I listen to your quote-unquote utopian story is, first of all, it's not so utopian, in the sense that you're describing that it's emergent already in pockets and places all around the world, really. The second is how much of this story that you just told is an integration of inherited stories told through the ages, each time in a different variation, and how much we all are the actualization of the highest prayers and the highest intentions of generations before us, plus something else that's arriving at this time that's unlocking this possibility that was not perhaps available in quite the same way before, and that we are called to possibly be the bridge makers of the best of what was and some of what is emerging, inside of which, by the way, we need to develop, as you said, the capacity to slow down the conversation and talk through the details and talk through the policies and talk through the government structures and economic models that will truly express and embody what you describe as new consciousness, because it ain't going to happen just because we wish it to happen. It's going to happen and get a chance at manifesting because there will be people across all domains of life manifesting and working different levels or different rungs on the ladder or different subdomains to give it a chance to be instantiated and then to find a way into a sustainable story. Or else we build something that has such an obvious bug that it becomes a supernova. It's something that brightens our sky for a day or a week or a month or a decade, but ultimately implodes. And what you are describing is a story where we bring together some way to unlock the collective genius, to solve the problems and the complexities that the world is now faced with from a different operating system, from, as you said, different consciousness, because indeed the historic, the modern, and the postmodern consciousness is incapable of solving the problems it created, as our friend and Uncle Einstein told us. So that's what I hear in that story. And I also hear the work, and we don't need to be heavy about the word work, because work can be playful and fun and energizing and unlocking and releasing. I was speaking yesterday with somebody in a very large corporation, leading corporation in Silicon Valley, where I led an endeavor 2 weeks ago, and I said, how is the project unfolding in terms of the work streams that we developed when we met for this 3-day zoo event? And he said, believe it or not, it's the most fun people ever had, because the day's work is where all the heaviness and the weight is. When you convene people to imagine the future, which is what I happen to be doing also for living in the corporate space, as well as the bigger arena that you are describing, but even there, what people tell you, this is the most fun we have. So the conclusion is, we shouldn't be afraid, we shouldn't be overly concerned about the work that's called for. The other breakthrough insight from this experience, by the way, Forrest, is people always say to me on the front end of a new corporate endeavor like this, they say, well, hold on a minute, we will have to do all this work in addition to all the work we do every day in running the business. And it seems to them as total impossibility until such time as they get acclimatized to moving into the space of imagining a new future, as you were just demonstrating so beautifully for us. And few things happen. First of all, they unlock different energies, as you're describing. When you enter a new consciousness, you shift completely your personal energy and the energy around you. Second of all, you bring online capacities and awarenesses and a new operating system such that when you get back to deal again with the day-to-day running of the business, you do so from a different place. So all of a sudden you're dealing with the problems of today from a different place altogether, because you are engaged with an inquiry of where do you need to be in the future. That's the work I get to do with corporations. What you're describing here in this portal's exploration is a vision of doing so at a global scale, humanity at large, recognizing that different people will apply themselves to different facets of the inquiry and the challenge, and that ultimately the entire system, the entire body needs to get engaged in the work. We need people working on education, on economic models, on technology models, on the policy front, on the new frontiers of updating science and how science defines search for truth, and how to do so in a way that integrates the inner worlds and the exterior worlds. All these need to be part of the journey you are describing, because what will not work, and has proven to be insufficient over the last 4 or 5 decades is pockets trying to escape the planet, quote unquote, or escape the gravitational field of the intractable problems by doing some kind of a spiritual bypassing to some advanced altered states. We need that work as well, but if that work is done without some integration with the entire body coming activated online, something is broken and is incomplete, and we're not likely to be as successful as we need to be because of the risk, the civilizational risk that's now on the table.
Hear, hear. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's when we really start to get in. When we talk about operating systems, it's like, people say like, I see things from third person perspective or fourth person perspective, but more and more these days, I'm looking at people and going like 3.0114567, like, and how can we meet the form of consciousness that's arising in this moment? And what exactly does this human or this being or this form of consciousness need to heal? And like you're talking about, we can do things like spiritual bypassing by trying to continue taking the well-trodden journeys in a lot of way. But to me, there's more refined, more nuanced, more subtle, I don't know, intuitive or just perfectly matched ways to meet an expression as it emerges.
You're describing the fine-tuning of the capillary action that's required in a living body, such that every cell is touched by the new energetic content that's and the new nutritional content carried by the blood. Or if you were to talk about an operating system, the neural system, the new neural network, internal and collective neural network, needs to connect all the nodes in the system, all the parts in the system. So to do so, it needs to be able to dock in at any level that the system is at. So you need people who are, I suppose you could describe them as magicians of the system, or spiral magicians. They're able to go up and down, left and right, north, south, east, west, and travel through to every aspect of the system and offer it exactly what it needs. To me, what we are describing there, we're beginning to describe the new human model that's emerging at this time, which is ultimately what I heard you describe in the story. So now I'll bring a bit forward the story that I tell, which is interesting because you and I have just met a few weeks ago. We're literally almost talking the same language, almost describing the same, along the same lanes of experience, with a few decades in between, and it matters not. And what I read in the story that you are describing is that we are at an end of an epoch and a beginning of a new epoch. And as you were going through those significant periods in history, I would tell an adjacent story that yes, perhaps we are completing a 3,500 year epochal transition. And in fact, what is occurring right now is that we are experiencing a convergence of few long wave processes that are coming together. And they together produce what we are experiencing as the culmination of the epoch that's going out and the new epoch that's on setting or that's incoming. And that is ultimately how we get to experience the bigger scenery inside of which we get to create the new stories that you are describing.
Well, I would love to hear your version, because those distinctions sound fascinating.